Hello and welcome back. In this session, we're going to be talking about importing data into Sparx Enterprise Architect from other platforms. We can also export data from Sparx to flat files that can be used for those other platforms. So let's get started. So we can get our requirements from many different sources. They can be in an Excel or a spreadsheet. They may be in some Word document. They could be from PowerPoint. They can even be from a napkin, handwritten. And so how do we get that data into Sparx Enterprise Architect so that we can deliver on whatever that data is? One thing we can do is extract the data from its data source and then transform that data into something that's manageable to where it's going to be loaded. So this is called ETL, or extract, transform, and load. And we're using a very simple example here of an Excel workbook that has business requirements in it. And it only has 5 requirements. We want to simplify this as much as possible. Now, there could certainly be a lot more. In this case, you see name column, you see a type column. This is requirement as the type. Could be business requirement, could be any other type that the source has called it, could be description or notes that further expand on what the data is, could be a version, and could be a lot more. All we need is to bring in the name, which is going to populate within Sparx Enterprise Architect, and we need the type called requirement. Not requirements, not business requirements, but requirement. So we would transform or change the type to be requirement, as you see here. We need notes, and you could be building notes from various different data sources, or you may get lucky and the notes or description or details about whatever the element is contained within a single field. But if not, you can use ETL methods or transformation methods in a tool like Microsoft Excel to bring it all together into one field of information. And then we'd like to have a version. This could be a version number. It could be the date the element was created, last modified, but we need some form of versioning, preferably a version number. So let's say that our data is in a flat file. It is in an Excel file. It may not be set up this way, but we need to get it into a CSV, that's comma separated value file, in order for us to prepare it to import it into Sparx. So this one's pretty much done for the most part. So what we want to do is we want to save this file as, and then to a destination, all right? So we would convert it to a CSV, comma separated file, and we can find the first one right here, UTF-8 CSV, right? So comma is the delimiter, and we would choose that, and then we would save the file. Next, let's open this CSV file and just do some checks on it. So this is the comma separated file. We can do some checks on it. Let's see, let's expand the notes column. Let's check those notes. And what we're looking for in the notes is how is the data formed? So most people in Excel, when they're doing bullet points, or whether it's an unordered list, and that's what you see here, unordered form, and they're using a greater than symbol to be the bullet, or numbered, and they would use numbers. We would want to check that. We want to also look to see whether the source had brought over tags like HTML tags and how that's being brought in. And we want to make sure those are compatible. These are fine right now. This is very simple, and we're going to use this CSV file for our import. So let's go over to Sparx. Let's go to Publish tab. And in the Publish tab, you have a group called Model Exchange, a panel right here that has these tools in there. And here is CSV. What we're going to want to do is we want to go to the down arrow, bring it down, and go to Configure, CSV Exchange Specification. And you get this dialog box where we're going to configure the transformation and import into Sparx Enterprise Architect. In this dialog box, the first field here is the specification name. And I have a few that have already been configured, but let's go ahead and create one. And we're going to call this just simply requirements. You can give this any unique name that you want, requirements 2, and then basic. I'm just going to call it that, right? Then you want the delimiter, and we're using comma. So you have different types of delimiter. These are the ones that are available. I don't see pipe in here, but that's okay. We're using comma. The next thing you want to do is you want to describe what this is. And I typically use this like I would be building the nouns and verbs for requirements. And I'm just going to type in name, comma, type. I want the name, the type. I want the description or notes. And I just want the version number. That's what I'm going to put in here for now. You have all of these available fields to be loaded into the Sparx database, but we're just going to keep it simple and use these 4. Next is the default file name. And you can skip this part, but I never do, so I don't know what the outcome or usability is. We're going to hit browse, and then we're going to go to wherever our document repository is. So here's our project, and we're going to be using requirements. So I'm going to put it in requirements, and I'm going to put in here import data, right? So import data, and then we're going to give this a name. It takes the default name that you named it, and we're good with that for now, right? So now you have a default path and file name to be used. Default direction, all right? Here we want to import, all right? And then the default types. These are the data types, and you have to be very clear here. You can't misspell this. So in Sparx table, as you know, there's requirement, there's requirements, plural. You want to have it singular requirement. The data type is going to be requirement. That's what we're loading, right? Then we're going to come down here to available fields, and we're going to add name, we're going to add type, we're going to add notes, and we're going to add version. Those are the 4 that we want, and we're going to go ahead and save this. For this demonstration, I want to do it not in a real project, but in a practice or learning project, right? So I've created a project. I've created a folder simply called Clean Requirements Import, and I have a Clean Requirements Import diagram. This is completely blank. And we're going to use this namespace right here to import in our requirements. To do this, I'm going to go into Sparx. I'm going to go to the Publish tab, and I'm going to go to Model Exchange, CSV Import Export, right? And here I have a package name that I've chosen, just called Clean Requirement Report. And specification that I want to use is Requirement Import. And you can hit the drop down, and you can see the available CSVs that are there for you. You can always double check by going out and then looking at the Exchange specification and going to import. And this is a different one over in this project. So I want to bring over the one that we created into this project, and we're going to import reference data in order to do this. Let's go to the project where we created the template. I'm going to go ahead and close this requirement. We're going to focus on the 5 business requirements as our example. And we are going to go to settings and then transfer and then export reference data. And you've all learned how to import and export reference data, so I'm not going to cover that. This time what we're going to do is we're going to go to Code, DDL, Transformations, and we have something called CSV in here. And we are going to export this CSV, and we're going to put it into a folder where we keep such files. So in reference data, let's see if it's here. We're going to go ahead and step on this one. It's right here. We're going to save. It's going to take the date, the versioning, and so on. And it has been exported, right? Now we're going to go back over to our other project right here. Then we're going to go to settings, transfer, model transfer, import. We're going to select the file. This is the file that we just saved, the XML. We're going to open it. It only has one selection in here to import, and that's CSV. We're going to import it, and it is done that fast, right? Now, when we go to publish and we go to CSV and we go to the Exchange specification, now when we bring this up, we have the configuration that we had set up to do this. Let's take a look at it. So we select it. The default direction is this is import, validate that. We look at the fields that are being imported, name, type, notes, and version, and this is what we want to use. So let's go ahead and close this. We go to publish CSV. Now we're going to go to import. Now we're going to select the file that we want to use. It knows it's import, so the action's import. It's configured for just this element requirement, so we're good there. And the default specification is going to be this one right here. And the file location, well, we can choose, we go to browse, then we go to whatever naming convention we're using, and this is import data. So this is the file on which we want to import what we just exported. So we're going to hit save, and if it would have been different file name, it would have saved over it. And we're going to run this. So it's running through that, and you can see the progress. It's creating the 5 requirements. We're done. We could certainly print the results. We could view the file. Viewing the file is basically opening up the file that we had imported from. And let's go ahead and close this. Don't need to save it. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And now let's look at the requirements that we just entered. Clean requirement import. Our blank diagram is still blank. We're going to select the first one, select the last one, and then we're going to drag and drop them into our workspace, our blank diagram. We're going to let go of the mouse button, and we want to select this for all the things that we're bringing in. We want them brought in as a link, all right? And now we're going to hit OK. So it brought them in that fast. We're going to go to layout, left justify, space them equally down, and now we have our requirements. Let's go ahead and maximize this window right here. And what we're going to do here is we're going to right click in here, switch views. You've all learned this in a previous video. And the view that we want is the specification view. So here's the requirements that we just brought in from the Excel workbook, and they're loaded into the Sparx database for use within the project. Now what we're going to do is we're back over in our project. Let's say we built the requirements in Sparx. And again, I'm going to use a very simple reference of just 5 business requirements that are right here. First, we want to make sure we're on the package that we want to export the data from, and we are. Here's the 5 business requirements, and we're going to go to Publish, CSV, and we're going to go to CSV Exchange Specification. And this time, we're going to create a specification to export this. So let's just call this Requirements Export, or maybe it's Requirements Expanded Export for this one. So expanded export. Again, comma separated, and then put in some notes. And we want to, you don't have to do this, but it's always smart. We want to do name, type, GUID, the global unique ID, comma notes. I don't need to spell this right, but I am anyways. Version, and what do I have to choose from here? Could bring an author. I'm going to use modified date and modified date. All right. So then the file name that we're going to go out to, we're going to browse. We're going out to export this time. So we have a folder that it's set up for export. It took the name, and we're going to leave this name for this configuration and hit save, right? Default direction. In this case, we're exporting, all right? And the data type is requirement. This could be class element, so class. It could be other types of elements. You could be exporting all of your applications or your classes that are used in your code development. And you want to put those out as a flat data source to be loaded into a database, or use somewhere else. Again, we're going to keep this simple, and we're choosing a requirement. All right. So the reason we type the notes is just to remind us we want name, we want type, we want GUID, global unique ID, we want notes, we want version, and we want modified date. So we're going to roll down modified date, right? Now let's say that we want, well, I don't want GUID because that number is going to mess things up. Either you can move your fields up or down. I'm going to move it all the way down to the bottom, the last field to export, right? Ready to go. Just double check everything. And again, if you need help, just select help. We're going to hit save, and now it is saved, all right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to export this data to a flat file. So we're on the folder that we want to export. There are no other subfolders. This is pretty clean. And we're going to go to Publish, Model Exchange, CSV, Import, Export, and then we're going to choose the specification that we want to use. And the one that we had created was Requirements, Expanded, Export. We're going to select that. It knows the action is export, the type is requirement. And if you misspell this, you're going to get an error. But let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. Oh, we want to do one other thing. Remember, we set a default where we wanted it to go. We could certainly change the name, change the folder, add in some sort of date, version number, date, both. Let's do that. So we've set where we want it to go. Now let's run it. So it exported the 5 requirements that fast, and we're going to hit close, and let's take a look at the file. We're over in the shared file folder where our data is. It's in the export data folder, and this is the file that we just exported. We're going to double click this and open up Excel. So here is our comma separated files extracted from Sparx and then transformed using these header names for this effort. So let's take a look now at the file. Let's just go ahead and select all the rows. You know how to do this in Excel, right? Double click just to auto expand everything. And then we want to expand these rows because we know that they're more than one line deep. You can see here multiple lines. Now what's interesting here in the characters is it brought over the HTML tags in the export. And that can be a problem or not. It depends if you're exporting from one Sparx project to another Sparx project that knows how to parse these tags and render them in data views. Let's go ahead and save this as a CSV file, right? Not an Excel file. You can certainly save as an Excel file. What we're going to do is import the CSV into another Sparx project next. Now, of course, you would not use Model Exchange in this way to exchange things like requirements or block diagrams using this form. You would use XMI. But we're just doing a demonstration. So what I want to do for this demonstration is I want to go to CSV, specification. I want to go in here and bring in the expanded export, right? And then what I want to do is save as import. And then get rid of export. So expanded import, right? And then hit OK. And now I have expanded import as a selection, right? So I'm going to hit close. I'm going to go to settings, transfer, export data again. We're going to go down to code DDL, CSV, export. Let's go ahead and step on our CSV, reference data. Here we go. There we go. And now when we roll over to our other project, our blank project, we're going to see, settings, transfer, import data. My mind is getting way ahead of my mouse. Import and update, bring in the CSV, import, and it is done. All right. So now if we go to publish, we go to CSV, we go to import, we should have within our dropdown expanded import. So it's right in front of me right here, right? It knows I forgot to change it from import to export, so I can do it here, right? So import, go out and grab our file, go ahead and select it, hit OK, ready to go. Let's run it. And it's bringing in our requirements into this project. Let's go ahead and open. It's a blank diagram. Bring in the 5 requirements, drag them over, select for all, hit OK. There they are. Go to layout, left justify, space them down equally, and do something like that. All right. Now let's go into specification view right here. And we have all the coloring. We have all the tags, the unordered lists. Everything is in here from that file. So here's all HTML tags that are in here. And when it's rendered in Sparx, you have all the coloring, the tags, bold, the underline, all of that stuff is now over in our other instance. So in this session, you've learned how to import data from outside sources into Sparx, transform and load them, ETL, into the Sparx database. You also learn how to export data out of Sparx so that it can be used in other platforms, whether that's Excel, Word, or a website, or any other platform. So I hope this was beneficial to you. We'll certainly be talking more. I could talk all day about this subject. There's a lot of things we did not cover, but in later sessions, we'll show you how to import data, flat file data for applications, and bring that in. You'll also learn how to bring in data directly from databases. We'll cover that in future sessions. So thanks very much for watching. Let us know what your questions and concerns are. Do you even know about Model Exchange? Do you use CSV capabilities to bring data in or take data out of Sparx and use it in any way that you want? So until the next episode, happy modeling.